I always knew something between us would change someday. I just never thought it would begin with a fogged-up mirror and the wrong turn of a door handle. The bathroom had always been my quiet space, the only corner in our small apartment where I could breathe without pretending. It wasn't the cracked tiles or the weak water pressure that made it special, but the peace it offered. In a cramped two-bedroom, that kind of calm was rare. I was halfway through brushing my teeth, shirtless, a towel hanging low on my waist, when the door creaked open. No knock, just that familiar scrape against the floor, followed by footsteps that sounded far too at home. He did that all the time, walking in like he owned the place. But this time felt different. "Hey, I need my charger," he said casually. I wasn't standing there half-dressed, toothpaste foaming at my mouth. He was already halfway inside before I turned around. Our eyes met in the mirror. His caught mine surprised, then still, just for a moment too long. Then he looked away, pretending nothing had happened, pretending his gaze hadn't lingered. "Top drawer," I mumbled through the toothbrush. He didn't say thanks, just grabbed the charger and left like it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. My heart was still racing. That was typical of him, showing up in moments that felt too raw, too unguarded. He had this effortless way of existing that made everything around him feel lighter. Laughing at his own bad jokes, sprawled across the couch in a hoodie with one sock missing, playing loud music at midnight. Yet somehow, it all made me feel less alone. We'd been roommates for almost a year. Thrown together by a university housing app, he was all denim jackets, lazy confidence, and a voice so deep it could make even past the salt sound like a secret. I was quieter, careful, the one who overthought every word. We shouldn't have worked. But somehow we did. Between late-night pizza runs and slow coffee mornings, we found a rhythm, not quite friends, not just roommates, something in between. A gray space I kept slipping into without meaning to, and there were moments I couldn't stop replaying, like the night he fell asleep beside me during a movie and didn't move away, even when I didn't. Or the time our fingers brushed, reaching for the same bowl of popcorn, and he didn't pull back. Or the way he sometimes looked at me like he knew something I didn't. Still, I buried it because what could ever come of it? He dated girls. He teased me for my emotional playlists. He laughed when I alphabetized the fridge. And yet, every time he stood too close or smiled too easily, that stubborn spark inside me refused to die this weekend. We were heading upstate for his cousin's graduation. He'd invited me weeks ago, called it a chill escape, just the two of us. Separate rooms, obviously. I said yes before I thought it through. Now, with our duffel bags by the door and a half-empty bottle of body wash still in my hand, I couldn't shake the feeling that this trip might finally push me over the edge. I'd been tiptoeing along for months. He knocked on the doorframe this time, maybe to make up for last time. "Ready in 10?" he asked, leaning in with that familiar smirk, half apology, half dare. "Yeah," I said, trying to sound steady. He disappeared down the hall. I stared at my reflection, searching for answers that never came. Something was shifting. I could feel it in the way he looked at me, in how I'd stopped pretending not to care. Whatever waited for us in those quiet woods, I knew something between us would either break or finally fall into place. The drive out of the city was golden, sunlight streaking across the windshield. The playlist we'd argued over for 20 minutes finally played in uneasy harmony, his loud road trip anthems trading off with my softer songs. Like everything else between us, a push and pull that somehow always balanced out. He drummed his fingers on the wheel, singing horribly off-key to a song I secretly loved, his sunglasses slipping down his nose. "You know you're off-key, right?" I said. "I'm not off-key," he grinned. "I'm expressive." I laughed. "There's a difference?" "Obviously. You just don't get art." I rolled my eyes, smiling into the window as the city faded into endless trees. That kind of banter had become our normal, playful teasing. Quiet comfort and silences that never felt. Awkward, it was strange how easily. He'd slipped into my life like I hadn't realized something was missing until he filled the empty spaces. We'd met 10 months. I go in an awkward roommate interview. I walked in with a checklist. He showed up late, hoodie half-sipped, sipping a gas station iced coffee like he had nowhere else to be. I almost wrote him off until he noticed the graphic novel on my desk, the one no one ever recognized. He talked about the author's other work for 10 minutes, and I knew he wasn't faking it. That spark. That's what got me, since then. We'd synced laundry days, split groceries, and fallen asleep on opposite ends of the same couch more times than I could count. I'd learned his tells, how he tugged at his collar when he was tired. And he'd learned mine, how I tapped my pen 3 times when unsure. Small things. Quiet. Almost intimate. But never spoken aloud. The cabin came into view just after noon, wooden, slightly crooked, tucked into a clearing that smelled like pine and earth. He parked the car and stretched with a groan. "God, my back," he muttered. "You sure you don't want me driving on the way back?" I teased, remember? "You said you don't trust me behind the wheel?" "I meant that lovingly," I said. Obviously, he laughed. Inside, the cabin was cozy, faded rugs, soft sunlight, and the faint scent of dust. His aunt had left snacks and a note about the canoe key. He tossed his bag on the couch and collapsed beside it. 2 bedrooms, I said, glancing at the doors. About that. He hesitated. One's being renovated. Ceiling issue. Guess we're sharing? I froze. You're kidding, he shrugged. Only 1 bed, but it's huge. I don't snore. You do sometimes, I said. Adorably, he grinned. I opened the bedroom door. He wasn't lying, 1 big bed under a window framing the trees. The space felt small, close. My heart picked up. I can take the floor, I offered, even though my back ached, just saying it. No need, he said, leaning against the doorway. We've literally fallen asleep on the couch together like 5 times. Yeah, but this is different. He didn't answer. When I looked back, he was watching me, not teasing this time, just quiet, steady, unreadable. Hey, he said softly, we'll make it work. Unless... His lips curved. You're afraid you'll roll over and cuddle me in your sleep or something.
Al laughed.
As if... But the way he smiled said he wasn't entirely joking. The rest of the day slipped by in that same rhythm. Easy. It's familiar, but carrying something unspoken. Something that felt like it was finally about to change. We unpacked, ate chips on the porch, and failed miserably at skipping stones across the lake. I took photos of the trees while he posed dramatically in front of them, pretending to be a model. He made me laugh harder than I wanted to admit, and still. Beneath all that noise, there was a quiet hum, the awareness of how close he was, how easy it would be to reach out and touch him, and how dangerous that thought had become. That night, we got ready for bed in the tiny bathroom, sharing the single sink. He stood beside me, brushing his teeth, shirtless, hair damp from his shower. Our shoulders bumped once, then again. Move over, I muttered. I'm literally on the edge. You take up more space than any human should, he smirked, spitting into the sink. You're tense. No, I'm not. You are. Your jaw tightens. You only do that when you're anxious or when you're about to say something you don't want to. I froze, glancing at him. You notice that? He shrugged. You notice when I pull at my collar, don't you? My chest tightened. For a second, all I could do was stare at the sink. Yeah, I said softly. I guess I do. He looked at me in the mirror. You're not that hard to read, he said quietly. You just think you are. I didn't know how to respond, so I didn't. We crawled into bed on opposite sides. The mattress was firm, but surprisingly comfortable. The room filled with the sound of rustling leaves and our slow, steady breathing. He lay on his back, hands behind his head, staring at the ceiling. You good? He asked after a while. Yeah, I said, but I wasn't. Every inch of space between us felt like a lie. And part of me couldn't stop wondering if he felt it too. The next morning, we set out to hike the trail, looping around the lake mostly, because he wouldn't stop teasing me about needing real fresh air before my city lungs gave out. I packed water and granola bars while he filled a small day pack. tossing a banana at me like we were heading off on some grand adventure. The trail started wide and easy. Sunlight slipping through the trees, the ground soft with moss and pine needles. We fell into step naturally, him slightly ahead. Turning to smirk whenever I lagged behind to take pictures of oddly shaped rocks or trees that looked like they belonged in a fairy tale. "You always do that," he said, nodding toward my phone as I snapped another shot. "Do what?" "Take a photo, stare at it, then take another from the same angle. I like finding the right frame." He sighed dramatically. "So artistic. So tortured." Up. I laughed. That was just how we were. Teasing came easy. But today, something was different. There was a current beneath it all, quiet, magnetic, impossible to ignore. Maybe it was the way he grabbed my wrist to pull me forward when I slowed down, his touch warm and casual. But all I could think about. Maybe it was the way I caught myself watching the shift of his shoulders beneath his shirt. Or how the back of his neck flushed when he laughed too hard. Or maybe it was just that no matter how many times I told myself we were only friends, every part of me wanted more. We reached a rocky overlook about halfway through. The view opened wide, endless trees, the lake shimmering below, and the sky stretched still and bright above us. I sat on a flat stone, sipping water, trying not to let the silence between us grow heavy. He nudged me lightly with his foot. "This was a good idea," he said. "Yeah," he nodded. "You've been quieter lately. Figured you needed a reset or something." I looked up. "You noticed that too?" He shrugged, but his eyes didn't leave mine. "You don't talk as much when something's on your mind." I almost said something then, almost let it all spill out, but the words caught in my throat, like they always did. He looked away first, stretching as he stood. "Come on," he said. "Let's see if we can make it to the stream before noon." We didn't make it. 10 minutes later, the trail narrowed to a bend where the ground had crumbled from a small landslide. The dirt looked loose, unstable. We both hesitated. "I think we can still cross," he said, stepping forward before I could stop him. The moment his foot hit the edge, the ground gave way. He stumbled, arms flailing, and I lunged, grabbing his forearm and yanking him back with more force than I knew I had. He crashed into me, and we tumbled into the dirt in a breathless heap. I felt every inch of him, his chest against mine, his sharp inhale, his hand gripping my side like he was still steadying himself. Neither of us moved. "Jesus," I breathed. He laughed softly, still sprawled across me. "You really don't like nature, huh?" "You almost fell," I snapped, my voice shaking. "Why would you step there?" "I thought it would hold." "Well, it didn't." He shifted to roll off me, but not before his hand brushed across my stomach. Just a fleeting touch, but enough to make my skin tighten and my breath hitch. I sat up quickly, brushing dirt from my hoodie, my hands trembling. "You okay?" he asked, suddenly serious. "Fine, you're not hurt?" "I'm fine." He studied me, brow furrowed. "You're mad?" "I'm not mad. I stopped pressing my lips together. The words I wasn't saying felt louder than the ones I did. "Just what?" He asked quietly. "I don't know," I admitted. "Forget it." But forgetting wasn't that easy. The path ahead was blocked, so we turned back, taking the longer, quieter route home. The trail grew steeper, each step heavier than the last. Clouds gathered above, dimming the light. Even though the forecast promised clear skies, the air between us felt thick, like the calm before a storm. Then it happened. My foot twisted on a root, and pain shot through my ankle. Before I could even react, he was beside me. "What happened?" "I'm fine," I said quickly, trying to walk it off. He didn't believe me. "Sit down." "I don't need to sit," he said again, more firmly this time. I gave up and sank to the ground, too tired to argue. He knelt in front of me, lifting my foot carefully. "Does it hurt here?" When he pressed near the joint, I winced. His brow furrowed with concern. "We should head back slowly," he said. "I'll help you. You don't have to stop for me. I'm not leaving you limping back alone." Stood and offered his hand. I hesitated, then took it. His grip was firm, steady. He slipped an arm around my waist to support me. Suddenly, Walking wasn't the hard part anymore. His warmth, his scent soap, and something familiar made every heartbeat louder. "You okay?" he asked softly. "Yeah. Just tired." Didn't answer. But he didn't let go either. By the time we reached the cabin, my ankle throbbed and my thoughts were a mess. He helped me to the couch, disappeared into the kitchen, then returned with ice and painkillers. He knelt again, wrapping the ice pack in a towel and pressing it gently against my skin. "Better?" he asked. I looked down at him, too close, too kind. His freckles, the faint stubble, the crease of worry in his brow. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Thanks." He didn't move right away. His eyes held mine, and something unspoken passed between us. Then, with a small smile, he said, "Guess I'm not totally useless?" "You never were," I replied softer than I meant to. The silence that followed said everything we couldn't. Something had shifted. There was no going back. By sunset, the cabin glowed with gold and shadow. I pretended to scroll my phone, though I wasn't really seeing the screen. He moved around the kitchen, making dinner mac and cheese with leftover chicken. It was quiet. Too quiet. He leaned against the counter, arms folded, watching me or maybe just trying to figure me out. And I was trying to pretend I wasn't thinking about the way he'd held me. "Want me to bring your plate?" he asked. "Sure," I said, forcing a smile. He nodded and turned away. I watched his back, the curve of his shoulders, and swallowed the words I wanted to say. When did I start falling for him? Maybe it was always there, hidden beneath the jokes, the late-night talks, the comfort of being near him. But it wasn't funny anymore. It was real and terrifying. Dinner passed in fragments of small talk. Neither of us ate much. The tension between us had changed, heavier, clearer. After dishes, he grabbed 2 beers and handed me one. "Come outside," he asked. The sky cleared. Yeah, he helped me up, his hands steady as we stepped outside. The air smelled of pine and damp earth. Stars shimmered above us. For a while we just stood there, side by side, quiet. "I thought you were mad earlier," he said finally. I wasn't. Just scared? Scared? That something might happen, and I wouldn't know how to handle it. He turned toward me, brows furrowed. "You've been acting different lately, so have you?" "Yeah," he admitted. I set my beer down, trying to keep my hands from shaking. "You've been watching me? Touching me more. Like you're trying to say something." He didn't deny it. His silence said enough. "Why?" I asked softly. He looked away for a moment, then back at me. "Because I'm confused. Because I've been feeling something I don't understand, and I don't know what it means." My chest tightened. "You're not the only one," I whispered. He stepped closer. "You feel it too?" I nodded. For a while now. I just didn't want to ruin what we have. The air between us pulsed with everything unsaid. He ran a hand through his hair. "I've never felt this way about a guy before, I know. I don't even know what this is. I just know that when you went quiet, it scared me. Like I was losing something that mattered more than I realized." "You never lost me," I said. He met my eyes, his voice barely above a whisper. "I think about you more than I should. I notice things. The way you bite your lip when you're thinking. How you talk in your sleep when you're stressed. I just want to be near you." My breath caught. "That's not stupid. It feels like it should be," he said quietly. "Because this wasn't supposed to happen. You're my friend, my safe place. And now I can't stop wondering what it would feel like to kiss you." The world tilted slightly. He took a careful step closer. "Is that okay to say?" "Yeah," I breathed. "It's okay." He swallowed hard. "What do we do with this?" "We stop pretending it's not real." He searched my face for a sign, any reason to pull away. "I don't want to mess this up." "You won't. And if I do?" I reached out, brushing my fingers against his. "Then we figure it out together." He hesitated, then closed the last bit of space between us. Slowly, carefully, as if one wrong move could change everything. I didn't mean to, but I froze. His hand found my waist, hesitant, unsure. My breath caught. When his forehead touched mine, I closed my eyes. "I'm scared," he whispered. Me too, I breathed, but I still want to try. And then finally he kissed me. It wasn't rushed or perfect, just soft and uncertain, like he was still learning what it meant. But it was real. So real. When I kissed him back, something inside both of us opened. His hands tightened at my sides, steadying himself. My finger slipped into his hair, and the world tilted again, but this time in the best way. When we finally pulled apart, breathless, he rested his forehead against mine. That was... He started. Yeah, I smiled. It really was. He laughed under his breath, dazed. God, I've wanted to do that all day. I nudged his nose gently. Then what took you so long? I was waiting for a sign. You didn't need one, I whispered. I've been here the whole time.
He kissed me again, slower now, more certain. And as the stars flickered above and the night wrapped around the cabin, I knew everything had changed. We weren't just friends anymore. We were something more, and for the first time in a long time that didn't scare me. It felt like coming home. Inside, the air felt warmer. The temperature hadn't changed, but something invisible between us had. We sat on the couch, shoulders brushing, my ankle propped on a pillow he'd fluffed too carefully. Neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. Every glance, every small touch, carried the honesty we'd avoided for too long. After a while, he nudged me gently with his elbow. So was that kiss okay? Or do I owe you a better one now that I know what I'm doing? I smirked. You want performance reviews already? He grinned. Just saying I'm a fast learner. I laughed, leaning back into the cushions. You're ridiculous. He leaned closer, eyes bright. And you like that about me? I really do, I said softly. His smile shifted, smaller, thoughtful. This feels crazy, he said quietly. Good crazy, I replied. The best kind. Silence settled again. Then he reached for my hand, threading his fingers through mine like it was the most natural thing in the world. And maybe it was. It didn't feel new. It felt like something that had always been waiting for us to see it. I meant what I said earlier, he added. I've never felt this way before. Not about a guy, not about anyone. My heart skipped. Does that scare you? He thought for a moment. Yeah, but not enough to stop. That made me smile. I squeezed his hand. I've been scared too, I said. Scared that saying something would ruin everything. But not saying anything started to hurt more. He looked at me like he understood exactly what I meant. I don't want to go back to how things were, he said. Me neither. He shifted closer, pulling my hand into his lap. So, what now? I shrugged, smiling. Now we figure it out, slowly. Together. You always say that, he teased. I like it. I know, he said softly. He lifted my hand and kissed the back of it, and my heart fluttered. That quiet closeness felt even more intimate than the kiss itself. The space between us felt fragile but real and safe. People might be surprised, he said. Us? I asked. Yeah, he smiled. But they'll get over it. You're kind of fearless, you know that? Only when I'm with you. That made him laugh, his real laugh, the one that crinkled the corners of his eyes. He looked at me for a long moment, soft and open. Can I tell you something kind of embarrassing? You just kissed me under the stars, I said, smiling. Go ahead. He scratched his neck, shy. Last month I almost told you how I felt. You fell asleep on the couch during that dumb sci-fi movie, and I just sat there thinking, this is it. This is the person I want to fall asleep next to for a long time. I stared at him. Why didn't you say something? Because you looked peaceful, he said with a shrug. And I was terrified. I leaned my head on his shoulder. You should have said it. Yeah, he murmured. But I think I liked the way it happened better. Me too. The fire crackled softly in the corner. I shifted, resting my head in his lap, and he didn't hesitate. His fingers slipped into my hair, combing gently through it. What happens when we go back? He asked. You know, real life, friends, family. We take it one step at a time, I said. No pressure. Just honesty. He nodded quietly. I don't want to be confused anymore. Then don't be, I whispered. You mean I'm allowed to want this? Want you? He looked down at me, his eyes bright and uncertain all at once. I do, he said simply. And somehow that was all I needed to hear. We didn't have all the answers. There would be awkward moments, hard talks, things to figure out. But right then, none of it mattered. What mattered was his thumb tracing slow circles on my shoulder, our breaths falling in sync, and the quiet, certain feeling that for once I wasn't hiding. We didn't need perfect. We just needed this. Morning came soft and slow. Not awkward, just peaceful. Sunlight painted the cabin walls in pale gold. I was already awake, lying on the couch with a blanket draped over me. He sat on the floor by my feet, coffee in hand, back against the couch. We didn't speak for a while. It wasn't silence that needed filling. It was just calm. How's the ankle? He asked. Better, I said, flexing it. Not marathon ready, but I'll survive. He smiled. Good. I'm kind of enjoying having an excuse to baby you. I laughed. You're enjoying it a little too much. He grinned and leaned back, his cheek brushing my fingers. You know, he said quietly, we could leave later. No rush. You sure? You said checkouts at 10. Yeah, well, I think I've earned the right to break my own rules. I tilted my head. You just want more time alone with me, huh? Exactly. He said it without hesitation, and I smiled harder than I expected. It amazed me how different everything felt now that it was out in the open. Lighter, easier, deeper. I'm not gonna lie, I said softly. I'm still kind of terrified about what happens next. I know, he said. But I'd rather face it with you than pretend none of this happened. Same. He looked up at me. Then let's not pretend. Not with our friends, not with ourselves. Let's just be whatever we are. Together. A quiet pause stretched between us, but this time it felt like a promise. We packed slowly, not because we were lazy, but because neither of us wanted to rush the ending. Folding blankets, brushing crumbs from the counter, sliding bags into the car. It all felt like part of something bigger. The end of one chapter, and the start of another. When we stepped onto the porch for one last look, he turned to me and pulled a small keychain from his pocket. A tiny compass, its metal edges worn smooth. This was hanging on the cabin key, he said, placing it in my palm. Figured you should keep it, so you can always find your way back. I looked down at it, then back at him. My throat tightened, but in the best way. I'll keep it safe, I said, curling my fingers around it. Even if the compass doesn't work, he teased. It's symbolic, I smiled. We stood there as the wind rustled through the trees. Then I reached out, taking his hand. This okay? He asked softly. It's more than okay, I whispered, and it was. His hand in mine felt grounding, steady. All the complicated emotions had settled into something simple, real, and right. As we walked toward the car, he nudged my shoulder playfully. So are we telling people? Or playing it cool? Depends, I said. You ready for your mom to text me 20 questions the second she finds out? He groaned. God, no. Then we'll wait a little while. Fair, we slid into the car. For the first time all trip, the silence didn't need to be filled. It felt like something to share. He glanced at me before turning the key. One last question. Shoot. What's the first thing you're doing when we get back? I smiled. Order a pizza. Then maybe kiss you again. Depends on how charming you are during the drive. He grinned. Challenge accepted. As the engine rumbled and the road stretched ahead, I turned the compass keychain over in my hand. It didn't point north. It didn't have to, because for the first time, I already knew exactly where I was going. And this time I wasn't going alone.